Before we get started, I've got a quick review shout out, which goes out to New Haven Gardens from New Zealand. They sent a review through in iTunes, a 5-star review. So thank you very, very much. And the title of that review was So Useful and Listenable. The content said, great podcast, packed with useful, relevant info and even complex subjects that are delivered in a really down-to-earth, understandable way. Well, thank you very much, New Haven Gardens. I'm glad you could understand my funny accent. Anyway, guys, if you've got a review, by all means, please head across to iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, YouTube, Spotify, wherever you see it, Facebook. Leave us a review and we will certainly read it out in an upcoming episode. And for now, let's jump right in. This podcast is proudly brought to you by Tradie Web Guys, and specifically Tradie Web Guys' new content creation program. Now, guys, I don't really get that excited very often about products and solutions that we release across at Tradie Web Guys, but I've got to say, this new content creation program is absolutely incredible. I'm talking common practice here for the clients that we're working with is to have their content ranking within the first page of Google organically within 1 to 2 weeks. Like, it is insane. Of course, it serves as a double-edged sword. It's there so you can communicate the caliber of work you do to your customers, but the search engine results we're getting from these projects is just mind-blowing. I cannot believe it. Anyway, guys, head across to tradiewebguys.com.au/content-creation. You can get to it through the homepage as well. But I really encourage you to fill the form in, guys, and see if it will work for you, because I can tell you now it's working for all of our clients and they are loving it. Go check it out. A little while ago, I received an email from one of our regular listeners, and he loves the show, listens to it all the time. However, he asked me if I could potentially get a few more guests on the show that are sort of in the trenches, so to speak. Guys that are out there actually doing the work, or guys that are out there that have really gone through, a journey that a lot of you guys out there might be going through. So, maybe they're trying to grow their business from one small milestone to the next. And we often get a lot of people on the show that have achieved massive success, or, guys that have, or people that have got, amazing solutions and products and stuff like that for tradespeople. However, getting people that are out there in the trenches does kind of make it a little bit more relatable. And I think you'll find interviews like this one today will make it a lot easier for you to resonate and maybe relate to. That's the idea anyway. So in today's podcast, you're going to hear just that. You're going to hear from a gentleman who's based up in Queensland in Australia, and he is going through growth in his business. However, he's going to talk a little bit about some of the struggles that he's been through, and then some of the ways that he avoided some of those problems and some of the ways that he built his business to scale around that. So I hope you enjoyed this podcast. There's a couple of these coming up. If you do enjoy it, let me know, because I can always get more people like this on the show. It just really depends on what you guys want to hear. So you can send an email to interviews@thesiteshed.com, or you can just reply or to the comments in the show notes here. Or if you see this come across social media somewhere, likewise, you can leave a comment there. It's really up to you. So yeah, if you want to hear more of these sort of people, guys, or if you know anyone, or if you yourself think that you might be good to come on the show, then absolutely reach out to us. And who knows, maybe you'll be hearing yourself on the Site Shed podcast one of these days. Okay, jump in.
Giving tradies and contractors around the globe the tools to run a modern business. You're listening to Toolbox Talks from the Site Shed. Now here's your host, Matt Jones.
Peter Norton, welcome to the Site Shed podcast.
Thanks for having me, Matt.
Not a problem. So you're a member of our community, and you saw recently that we had one of our followers actually email in and ask me to, I suppose, get a bit of feedback from guys that are maybe not at the level of businesses that I've been interviewing recently, like guys that are sort of out there and they've sort of gone from the one-man band and they've started to make a bit of progress, just something to make it a little bit more relatable. And as a result, we were connected through Adrian from Train Group. So good to have you on the show. Thanks for spending the time.
Absolutely. Thanks again for having me. And a long-time listener. So great to be able to come on as a speaker.
There you go. You're a podcaster.
Yeah, absolutely.
Off on racing.
Absolutely.
Look, it is a bit of a challenge sometimes when you're running podcasts, because you're obviously trying to find the most insightful and useful information possible, and then like occasionally, I suppose I tend to neglect the fact that there are a lot of people out there that the content I'm creating might be a little bit over their head or a bit beyond them or a bit bit hard to imagine, a bit hard to grasp. So I suppose the purpose of this podcast and a few that are going to be coming off the back of it as well is we just want to make, I suppose, bring to reality a bit about the journey and a bit about, being in the trenches and, some of the battles that I suppose you may typically run into or you did, earlier in the piece and how you sort of got around those little obstacles. So do you want to tell us a little bit about your business and I suppose, where you are and that kind of thing, Peter?
For sure. Thank you. So we launched Enersol Electrical in 2016. Was simply started, first of all, I was in fly in, fly out mining. So we started the business I was looking to get back home and spend more time with the kids and family. So we, on my break, I bought a van for about $6,000. And on my break, on the 2 weeks back, I was able to start doing some electrical works around the Gold Coast region, which then...
Were you a Sparky in the mines?
Yes, was. Yep. Correct. Okay. Yep. So I've been in a Sparky since about 99, so close to 18 years now. I'd had a little venture into contracting a bit, probably just outside my apprenticeship, and I found it quite challenging and I wasn't ready. This time I was more ready, had some, I had a family that I had a bit more desire to get out of the mines and be home. So initially I didn't know how it was going to go, but bought the van and put myself out there. And after about 3 months, I found that I was starting to build quite a reasonable base of customers. Just by doing decent work and connecting with them as much as I could, following up on previous jobs with them. And before I knew it, 3 months down the track, I had that much that on my 2 weeks that I was back out and fly out, I was on and off the phone getting subbies in to do a lot of the jobs for me. So I was like conflicting the job out there that I was doing because I was just so busy on the phone and arranging guys to do all the works for me. So I was facing a good problem to have. And then made the transition into it full time and started doing it on my own full time. And it really went to another level then. But at the same time, a lot of challenges came up because I'd never really run an electrical contracting business full time and on my own. So I had issues like I wasn't sure my price points. I wasn't sure how to capture all the information and keep on top of everything. There's so much stuff, safety stuff that come in, your swims and all the things that go with it. So I had quite a lot of challenges. 2 years, we're into our third year now. So 2 years down the track, we just put our heads down, bums up, and put all the effort into it, and big hours, long hours. And it's a bit of a lonely journey at times. Sometimes you're just so busy, you don't have a chance to talk to anyone. Your social life sort of does take a bit of a backseat for a little while, but we're able to, along the way, be able to connect with some great people, like you spoke about Adrian and others, Adrian Fedini. So along that journey, we were able to get introduced to flat rate or fixed rate pricing, which helped us and with our business getting a set of uniform prices across the board. And when we brought guys in, train them up and expand our business from there and venture out, not only just residential, but venture into some commercial type service and maintenance. So we do mainly service and maintenance, and we also do air conditioning installations residentially. So it opened up quite a lot of doors. And 2 years later, we've got a couple of vehicles and a couple of guys running around the coast and doing what we do.
Unreal. Sounds like a pretty interesting journey then.
Yeah, mate. It was had its ups and its downs, but it's been pretty rewarding and enjoyable. Yeah.
So I'm curious, like you're working in the mines 2016, and you thought, I'm just going to do a bit of work when I'm back home in the Goldie, and I suppose because you were bored? Like, what happened there? Why did you want to do that?
Well, I wasn't quite. I thought I'll give it a crack. I thought, if I buy a van and start, it may lead to something. I wasn't quite sure. But also too, obviously there's a bit of extra income as well. When I got back, I was home for 2 weeks. So, and you can get in a bit of a trap if you do fly in, fly out. You come home and you can get caught living the rock star lifestyle for 2 weeks and not really doing anything. So I thought if I buy a van, it'll keep me active and keep me moving along when I get back. You do fall into a bit of a holiday mode for 2 weeks, and then it's hard when you go back out. So, I thought I'd buy a van and see how it went, and I didn't have any idea how big it was going to go or where it was going to go. I just thought I'd give it a crack, and a few months later, I was more busy than I was expecting, and then obviously taking calls out when I was out in the mines for customers ringing up to get work done, and so I just put a subbie on and he did really well. So
that's awesome. So I'm curious, like, how did you get the work? How did you find the work when you were out in the mines?
Sure. So that was one thing when I did buy the van. I was like, okay, I can get a van, and how am I going to get customers? So I started researching quite a bit, and I actually came across Elias, who's an electrician target. He does Google AdWords as well. So it was a bit of an investment. So I threw some money into AdWords and got him to do it. I had no idea how to do the AdWords, and I wasn't interested in trying to work it out. All I knew is, how to do it. So I got taught back a few years ago. I had another business there for a couple of years in fitness industry, and I remember a coach I had to say, you just stick to what you're good at and outsource whatever else you can to other parties who are experts at that. So I outsourced it to Electrician Target, and I was able to get him to get my phones ringing. So and we still use him to right until today. So he's been a big help as well.
Unreal. And so so you were running the AdWords while you were out in the mines?
Correct.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah. The phones were running flat out. It was crazy. Yeah, it was a tough one. It was a tough one to be in. I had to have a reception service, call capture service, because there's times I couldn't take the calls. So they'd take their name, number, and get all the details, and then I would get the email and I'd ring them back as soon as I could. So I was juggling. It was a juggling act, but we got by.
So tell me a little bit about then, I suppose, that transition from coming out of the mines and going into your own business, because, and the reasons why you did that.
Well, obviously with the phone ringing flat out for the 2 weeks I was out there, I knew it wasn't sustainable to keep doing that. But I also saw an opportunity to really keep growing and expanding the business. It wasn't until I saw how much work I was getting come in that I actually realised, hey, we could actually expand this business. We could actually go to another level with this business. So, that was when, like I said, a couple of months in, and I just went, why not just give it a crack? Just so I pulled the pin on the mining gig and just jumped in and went flat out. And it really, like I said, it just took off and went to another level because I was actually able to be in the trenches doing the work constantly every single day, and obviously provide the best service I could. And I knew that it was all or nothing. Once I left the mines, it was hard to get back into that position, into that gig. So, it was that 3 to 4 months in that middle of the third month that I just went, let's give it a good crack. And I put a goal in place by about 6 to 7 months in, I think it was, that I'll get a new van or a newer van. I'll transition out of the old one into the new one once I knew how much work I had. And that actually happened. I started looking at some ex-Telstra vans and jumped into one of those, and then put someone in my, what I used to call the old Rattler that I bought for $6,000. So it was just a process of growth, going to the newer van and then new guy going to the old van. So we found an awesome guy. He came in on board with us, and he was instrumental in helping us grow as well. So it was just finding that right person, and he fit in really well. And we taught him the flat rate process, and he learned a lot as well in the process.
So let's talk a bit about that, because that's a problem that's very evident in our climate here in Australia and around the world. Finding the right staff is basically the linchpin to every business I ever speak with. So how did you find him, and where did you find him?
So his name is Jesse, great guy. He's moved on now. He's moved up north, just to a new location with his family. But he was a friend of the wholesaler I used to go to and buy predominantly all our stuff. He was mates with him, and he just transitioned out of his last company and actually wanted to go and subby for himself first and see how he went. So he came on as a subby for a short duration, and then when I was looking to get the new van, we're going to bring someone on, and he liked what we did so much that he actually said, I'm willing to give up subbing and come on full time. So, it was through through the manager of the wholesaler, who's a mate of mine. He recommended him, and I met him. I said, come and have a couple of days with us as a subby. And, he was just keen, got in, had a really good attitude. And, he helped us really grow well in that first 12 months. So, he just had a great attitude. And I knew from the moment I met him that, he was committed.
Yeah. And so when you had that initial conversation with Jesse, were you looking for some ways to, I suppose, replace yourself to an extent?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, sure. So I knew that I needed to find someone who could at least replicate to some extent what I was already doing, and that was including quoting, invoicing, doing the whole lot. So we did implement some job management software. We started off with Tradeify. And we showed him how to use it, and that's one thing I was definitely looking at. Could he communicate with the customers? Did he have the ability to do quotes and then finalise and go through to the invoicing and taking payments? So I definitely look at that especially right now in our business as well, we look at guys that can come in and follow that process. So yeah, it was one thing I did look at, and when he came out in the job, how he connected with the customers and how he was building that relationship and rapport. So that was important to us, and he did from the get-go. He was really good at it.
And how did you learn that yourself, being that you stepped straight out of the mines into a busy business? Like where did those skills come from?
Yeah, that's a good question. So like I said earlier, I had a fitness business for a couple of years as well. I had a break from electrical I still worked on the side as electrical, but I had a break for about 2 years where I ran a personal training business. So I had to learn quite quickly about communication and connecting with your customers or your clients and building that rapport, because you're selling yourself as a fitness professional. I had some of those skills already. But to be honest, jumping back in a few years later to do it, I just had to get in and learn, just get out there and do it. And
sink or swim.
Yeah, sink or swim. I made some mistakes on the way. You got to lose that a bit of that, that construction site trading when you start dealing with your clients in residential situations. So I had some challenges at times, but you just keep practicing and you just keep learning and what works and what doesn't, and you lose some quotes and you win quotes, and it's just how it goes. And you're only as good as your last win or your last performance. So I'd always try and work out ways or look at ways how I can improve on even the bigger quotes that I got over the line. How can I be better on the next one? Yeah. And we do that with our guys as well.
So, I mean, if for the listeners out there, so first of all, talking about, okay, I need to find staff. I need to find people to, I suppose, help take some of the workload off so I can concentrate more on bringing leads in or quoting, invoicing, or whatever that looks like for them. What's the advice you'd give them there? I mean, you ran into your employee, your wholesaler. So is it about being just, did the wholesaler know you were looking for someone, or did you just by chance bump into him there? Or
I keep posts with a lot of the suppliers and keep talking to them and let them know how my business is going and find out how they're going. I think the biggest thing that I've learned over the years, and especially working for other companies, that the relationship that you keep with your suppliers is very important, because they do, if you've got a great relationship with them, they'll go the extra mile to help you out, as we do for our clients that love us and keep bringing us back. You go that little bit extra every time. So we find that with the suppliers. So I just used to sit down once a week and have a chat to them, and I'll just share with them where we're at. We're looking for a new guy, and that's how the conversation came up. Is we're looking for a guy, and then he said, I know a guy that just left the last company he was working for. He's looking for some subby work, and he just happened to come into the wholesaler the next time I walked in, and we'd already shared our interest to the wholesaler, and he said, here's Jesse here. So the next minute we I think it was only a couple of days later he came on the first job with us.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so it happened quite quick. So you just keep communicating with your people, your contacts. Mention it to people. You can throw it on social media. You can put a Seek ad out. But I think that connection with someone is definitely, obviously, got a little bit more power to it.
Yeah. And then I suppose the second thing I wanted to ask you was off the back of that, when you're saying, you wanted to train him and you wanted to make sure he was doing everything right and all this kind of stuff. How did that training process look?
So it was very challenging in the beginning. Flat rate can be a little bit tricky for people starting out.
Just for the listeners out there that may not be familiar, what's flat rate?
So it's just basically upfront quoting, or you've got a price book that you've got with items throughout the price book for us for electrical, PowerPoint, light, whatever. And when you turn up to a customer's house, you put together a bunch of options that they want to go ahead with, and you deliver a quote. Basically, it's got the name flat rate, fixed rate, but it's ultimately just upfront quotes that they get to approve and move ahead with what item they want to go with.
Mm-hmm. And in my experience with that flat rate model, there comes a certain degree of, let's say, ethical sales training that is sort of required to make it work well. Did you learn that from anyone, or did you do that? Was that School of Hard Knocks as well?
Yeah. A bit of both. So initially we just jumped in and did it ourselves. And then moving on from there, we got some help from, we went to Adrian Fedini's 7 Steps to a Profitable Service Call. I think he's changed the name now. But Jesse came along to that as well. So in the beginning, it was sort of just myself teaching Jesse and going through the motions and working out what was working and what wasn't. And then when we got further in and obviously we made some more money and we were doing reasonably well in the early stages, we looked at where we could invest in some sales training. And a good mate of mine, Dane Beasley from the Gold Coast Plumbing Company, he found Adrian actually, and we all went along and did the 7 steps together. And Jesse, after that, actually jumped out and he closed off, I think the next day, or the next Monday after, about $4,000 on his own, and he hadn't closed out more than $2,000 worth of sales until then.
Yeah, right.
So it just goes to show having the right people and the right training can definitely take you to that next level.
Fantastic. So I suppose in hindsight, if you were to say there was one thing that you did right in those early stages, what do you think it would be?
Okay, the one thing would be, pretty much just adapt across to upfront pricing or quoting upfront, and move away from the do and charge hourly rate system that was just not working, and we weren't profitable, and it was just going to burn me out. So that would be probably the first decision we made that helped our business grow.
Yeah, cool. So you started off, you were trudging along there, you're making the business was growing, and then now you're at a point where you're sort of rapidly approaching the $1 million mark. So I'm curious, what's your role in the business today, and how has that changed from when you back in 2016?
Yeah, sure. So it's taken some twists and turns, that's for sure, and jumping in and out of the vehicle at times, and I'm spending a lot more time on working on how we can improve the business as a whole in regards to our values, what our guys, live and breathe by when inside of our business, and helping them get better at what they do. There's some big aspects around that to help them grow into leaders. So we look at every person that comes in, whether they're our apprentice as well, we look at him as a growing leader. We're all got it in us in different aspects. So helping them grow, that's stuff that we look at the moment. Also more relationships, with continuing to build relationships with new clients, looking at strata opportunities, body corporate, and continuing to build there. But I still jump back in and out of the vehicle at the moment. We're not at the stage where I can full-time transition into being in the office. And at the moment, it gives me that balance, a bit of both, and I still get out with the guys and help them out. But just continually working on me as a business owner, me as a leader. I'm keep investing in myself because I know that will then filter down the line to the guys and provide them with an opportunity to work, have it at a great place to work. There's challenging days, but also rewarding them where they've been putting in the efforts for us. So my role is a bit diverse at the moment, and I still do a lot of quoting, obviously work out what's going on with inside the business with our my fiance. She's half the owner of the business as well, so she works on the marketing and those sorts of strategies. So working together and bringing it all together.
Nice. And so you mentioned that you do work with strata and real estate. How does the flat rate model correlate to that side of the business? Yeah,
it can be quite challenging with real estate. Not all real estates respond well to it because it's a mixed message by the time it gets to the property owner. Strata is a lot more effective. We've only just dipped our toe in the water with it, and it'll continue to grow. They respond a lot better to it than the real estates in general, but some real estates love it and they give you a pre-approved amount, so they can work quite well there. It just depends on who you get and how you communicate it to them. I think that's important to communicate it to them well in the beginning and help them understand what it's about.
We interrupt this podcast today to talk to you very quickly about Tradie Web Guy's content creation program. That program has been designed specifically for trade-based organisations as a way that you guys as trade business owners can start creating content that enables you to engage better with your customers and your potential customers. It will enable you to build trust and build rapport because what you're doing is you're investing in educating them. Biggest problem that we see with our customers today is that they're not regularly updating their websites. And that's a problem because first of all, the search engines are looking for that. And second of all, potential customers are also looking for it. Tradie Web Guy's content creation program has been specifically designed to help you get regular, relevant content on your website consistently every month. We know that it's hard when you're out there on the tools, and we know that sometimes you don't always have the time to be able to do these things yourself. So we're taking it off your hands for you. It's a service that we're offering for you guys. We want to make sure that you're getting this done because we know how important it is. Anyway, head across to tradiewebguys.com.au/content, fill in the form, and one of our representatives will come back to you. Did you guys in the initial stages ever go down the path of considering like really niching yourself towards something in particular? Like you guys are kind of like you do a lot of residential, commercial, electrical, that kind of stuff. But did you ever think, oh, I want to fly the flag for solar, or I want to be the LED lighting guy or anything like that?
We did. We looked into it, and the Gold Coast is still growing. We're not quite as big as Sydney or Melbourne. There is obviously opportunities to go down solar, but we didn't go down that path. There's a huge amount of solar installers out there, and we wouldn't be able to compete with some of those massive companies that do the bulk installs and the lower profit margins in volume.
I suppose I'm just sort of, what I'm saying is when you got started and you were running your AdWords, your marketing, like what were you targeting? Like what
just resi customers, electrical service and maintenance, basically, which is all just light and power, basically, in the beginning.
Okay.
And then we transitioned into air conditioning. So in summer, it's probably our main area, which is split system and ducted air conditioning, which we specialise in. And then, throughout the winter, it dies off a little bit. It doesn't really get cold up here, so we don't get as much. So that would be our niche in the summer period, which is a crowded space. But it's where we get a predominant bulk amount of our work because of the temperature. And then in winter periods, it's appliances, LED lighting, switchboard upgrades, etc. And we have thought about niching ourselves down, but that's continued to grow our business in those areas. Our focus now is definitely on increasing our strata area, getting more guaranteed work over a 12-month period, periodic maintenance, some food and beverage places, etc., which we've successfully secured some of those, which is guaranteed work for 12 months rather than being reactive all the time with your AdWords just for mums and dads at home.
Yeah. And so tell me a little bit about, I suppose, if you're running AdWords, you're doing a lot of maintenance work for residential. You obviously started to build quite a bit of a database there. What program do you use for your database management?
Sure. So with all our job management, we use Arrowflow, which has all our flat rate book, etc. And then with our email marketing, we use ActiveCampaign.
Nice.
Those two tie together reasonably well. And then Xero for our accounting for the rest of it.
And do you broadcast to your database, or do you send out like news or promotions, or how do you keep in touch with them?
To be honest, we have only done a small amount of that, and we're just in the process now of going down that path more to keep in contact with them, give them some good content. So we haven't up until this stage, and we've started looking at how to reconnect with our existing customers and how the repeat work can be so powerful, and it's an aspect that we missed for some time, just searching for new clients continuously, which are 7 times harder to secure work from than one that's already purchased from you before. So we're in the process of sending out newsletters and some email marketing that will give them little tips and tricks on how to do certain things, and then keep that relationship with them. So we are in that process at the moment.
I think you'll be. I think you might find that might be the golden ticket to get you over the 7-figure line.
Absolutely. That's what we had to look at. We had to look at where can we go just to that next level, and that's definitely one aspect that we had neglected slightly.
It's a funny thing, like we're running a marketing agency, and people come to us all the time looking for new leads or asking for new leads. And then when you look at the asset they've built over the last 10, 15, 20 years, I mean, I spoke to a guy recently who had 30-odd thousand people on his database, and he'd never once communicated with them.
Yeah, wow.
And he's talking about new leads, and I'm like, mate, the last thing you need is more leads. You just need to look after the ones you've got.
Get in touch with the ones you've already got. Absolutely. Yeah, I'm glad I'm realising that now a couple of years in, because I think from all the meetings I've been to and other trade businesses I've talked to, we all do the same thing, or majority anyway, chase new leads and just forget about those ones that are sitting there. So I think there's a bit of an art to it, and I think once we delve into it, it will definitely bring some great results.
I know in my experience, there's a couple of tools which have just been prolific to the growth and the success and the scalability of my businesses, and I'm curious to see what your take is on this. And it sounds like we're going to be on the same page here, but I know we've had there's been a few conversations in the group, often from people that are companies that are just getting started and they're a little bit hesitant about spending money on programs like Xero or QuickBooks or things like that. And I know from me that the minute Xero was the first program that I ever invested in, and then G Suite or Google Apps as it was back then was the second one.
Yes.
And I know just looking at those two now, like they're still the two staple tools in my business for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And then since then, of course, we've added on things like CRM, which is customer relationship management. For you guys, I'm sure you would just use your Arrowflow, but you've got your ActiveCampaign, which is your email marketing. So I'm just curious, like for those people out there that are in that space and they're sort of thinking, well, I don't really need that sort of stuff. What are your thoughts?
all of the software that's available on that line now, there's so many of them, and they all have their pros and their cons, and there's not one perfect fit for all, what I've noticed.
Yeah.
And we went from Tradeify to Arrowflow. We've always used Xero. But, yeah, just having those platforms saves a lot of time. Obviously, the initial outlay, for some of them might be something that people get a bit hesitant about. But once you actually see the power of them and how much time it gives you to be able to, or even after work, all the accounting stuff, how quick it is with Xero integrating with Arrowflow, it's imperative if you want to grow. It's imperative to have those devices to really help you scale your business and grow to another level and make jobs that are a lot harder and more time consuming much faster for a small amount of money. The amount of money you pay for a lot of these programs, if you work out what you've got to spend per hour over a period of time to do those things, it's only a small margin of the cost, or time away from family, etc. So I reckon they're imperative.
I think that's like the key point, and people sort of look at the price and they go, "Oh, what, $50 a month? I don't want to spend that. I could do it on an Excel spreadsheet." And then you look at the amount of time and your hourly rate and how much time you'd be spending doing it, and it would work out to be about 20 times that.
Absolutely,
and the rest of it.
For sure. No, those days are gone. Definitely, the technology's the way to go. That's for sure.
I'd say for the listeners out there, you tradies and contractors around the world, definitely invest in a good job management, or if you're in the project space, if you're a builder or whatever, project management tools, because they will make your life so much easier, and they'll help you systemize the business. They'll help you create order, and they'll also make you ridiculously more organized, like just insanely more organized. And it's just such a valuable tool to a business to have all that stuff in place, because it's like, it just helps you run it more like clockwork.
Absolutely. I mean, you look at a dirty, if your vehicle's completely messy and how it's hard to think, and when you clean it up, it's so much clearer. Or an office, when your office space is just cluttered with paperwork and your mind's just clouded. It's much the same with the software. And if you've got decent job management software, for Arrowflow example, you can take the photos and do all your stuff in the job, and then you just close off the job, and it's just sitting there for whenever you need to go back to it, and you can forget about everything else. Yeah. So those sorts of things just clear the mind and help you sleep a little bit better at night, that's for sure. Trade businesses always keep you awake, that's for sure, but it'll help you sleep that little bit more.
Especially when you got 24-hour call out like you guys do, right?
Absolutely, yeah. You can get calls at any time. You've got to have the phone ready.
So I'm curious, you guys are in a pretty busy space up on the Gold Coast. There's a lot of tradespeople up there, Sparkies all over the place. Like, do you ever come across that argument of competing on price? And if so, how do you avoid it?
Yeah, sure. That comes up all the time, and we have customers who get other quotes and things like that. But a lot of the time, it's not really apples and apples unless they can show me it. But what my comment to people always is, I can't compete on lower prices without compromising on quality, which we aren't willing to go down that path. We do quality installs, and also too. We just know our numbers. We know what it costs to keep our business open. We know our P&Ls, and obviously the fixed rate system helps you really get clear on that. Just knowing those and going in, I don't buy into it too much. I just revert back to the value they'll get going ahead using our company for our services. I always go back to what they get for using us, and the follow-up service and all the things that go with it, the cleanliness, the customer service, the reliability. So a lot of if you do get caught on price, you're missing the point about the value you can offer the customer and what problems you can solve for that customer. Yeah. So I always I don't really visit it too much. And if customers are caught buying on price, they're not seeing the value. They're stuck on price only.
So, there's conscious of the time as well, like we're probably getting towards the end now, but I just wanted to, ask you, for any of the listeners that are out there that are in that position, they're sort of new and getting started, what's some of the key tips or pointers that you'd be willing to give them in order to help them, progress consistently?
Absolutely, for sure. Definitely get involved in any of the trade groups, or get on any platforms you can. Like Tradie Mate Pro is a perfect one that's just come up. But any of those platforms where you can get involved with other trade businesses, get connected with those, because that's been a big part of our growth as well, is being involved in other trade businesses and communicating with them. We've all got similar or same problems. You can share similar stories. Or job management software and Xero, those as well. That use as much technology as you can. Outsource things outside of the area that you're an expert in. If you're just trying to do AdWords and everything else yourself and just bogging yourself down, I believe, in my opinion, that you're holding yourself back from doing what you're great at. If you're great at the trade itself, so stick to what you're good at and outsource what you can to others. And probably the other thing is understand that the first few years are tough. You've got to invest a lot of time. There's a lot of nights I finish at 9 or 10 o'clock, and I just had to accept that. And that's the reality of running any business. It's not going to be you're not going to be at the top of the mountain straight away. It takes some time, and you've got to keep grinding and invest in your when you bring on new people, invest in them as well, and ensure that you're making sure that you're bringing them up to speed with you and helping them grow as much as you are. So that would be the main things.
I think it's funny as well, like it's so often we just think that more work and more money is going to be the answer to the pains in the business. And like I just know in my experience that often the more work and more money you're bringing in, the more problems at a bigger scale you start experiencing. So then you need to build out more and more processes.
Absolutely.
It's just a different type of problem.
It's so true. It's so true. You've got to continually look at refining your systems and processes because there's more and more fires that pop up. And then, you got to run around and put the fires out and learn, okay, how can we do that better, or can we change that? What do we need to do to implement this to make sure those things are minimised or don't happen again? So you're spot on. It doesn't. There's the challenges in the beginning when you first start out is obviously bringing in work and getting through each day and getting through the workload and making ends meet with some quiet periods if you do have those. And then when you go to the next stage, the challenges are bringing in enough work for the guys that you have and then dealing with all the problems that come up with them. So it doesn't. It just changes. It transforms. The challenges just transform. There's always challenges no matter what. They just come in different areas and you just got to be ready for them and accept that they're going to be there.
And so what's the future look like for Enersol Electrical?
Mate, I have to say it's looking good. We're on this call, so things are moving along nicely.
You made it.
Yeah, I made it for sure. No, we're looking to over the next. We've got a couple of vans on now, so by the end of the year we want to get another service vehicle on and secure some more of the strata contracts which I spoke about. And by the end of next year, we're calling it the 5-van plan. So have 5 vans on by the end of next year. Maybe a bit of a stretch, but that's our goal. We'll keep chipping along and building those relationships. And I think when we get to that, we'll want to reassess it then. But I think that will be a comfortable amount of vehicles with the model that we have. We cover the Gold Coast region, so we'll be looking to move a little bit north into the south of Brisbane and maybe a little bit west from here as well. That's what it's looking like. So we'll keep chipping away at our area, our air conditioning and electrical service and maintenance, and keep broadening our horizons.
And just quickly, I mean, I'm just curious. You touched on, you've got a goal to put another van on the road by the end of the year. What does that goal look like? Like, what are the metrics to enable you to say, okay, now we're ready?
Yeah, so obviously the workload's got to be there. The system's got to be in place. Our guys that we have now, we want to make sure that they're to a level where they're operating efficiently. There'll be no point in bringing someone else on now and our guys not being in a position where they're able to continue to operate their service truck as a solo operator, basically, if you put it that way, being able to follow the system. And then, just making sure there's a consistent amount of work there, which it comes down to, like we spoke about before, just touching bases with our existing customers. With some of the ones we've called up and said, hey, you just seen how you're going, how was your last job? And they've gone, I've actually been meaning to ring you. We actually need to get some more work done. So just being in a position where we're ready to do that as well, because we know there's ups and downs and quiet periods, lull periods and rises and falls. So just being ready to be able to implement strategies to ensure that there's enough work for another vehicle. But moving into summer now, it's our heaviest period with the air conditioning install. So based on last summer, we were overflowing with work. So we know moving into this summer we will. And it's just continuing to get the momentum going into next winter, because that's when it quietens down a bit, to make sure we continue to have enough work for them. So basically we need to be making sure there's enough work to run that vehicle the 5 days a week, which should be in around that sort of $30,000, $30,000 a month in work available.
Okay, cool. And I think that's important, because a lot of the guys, I think they just struggle with that whole visualization. I want to have I want to put an extra truck on the road. I want to get 2 guys on the road. But the reality behind setting those goals, you've really got to have like a pretty defined set of metrics before you can get that truck happening. And so I think it's important that the guys appreciate, or at least understand, what some of those metrics are. So, of course, having the more work comes in, but I mean, that would come a result of marketing, which would probably come a result of increasing marketing spend. possibly, like you were saying, investing into like an email marketing campaign. Like, it doesn't come for nothing, you know?
No, you've got to forward forecast, that's for sure. We test and measure and track all of our calls that come in, and we get a lot of days where we're fully booked and we might have 3 or 4 people we've had to turn away or try and book into other days, but they need it done now. So we monitor that as well and see with our existing calls if there's enough workload that we're turning away to take on another vehicle. And then also too, absolutely, you're going to have to forward forecast and put some money into additional marketing and another marketing campaign, letterbox drops. We spend quite a bit on AdWords, your SEO as well, if you're going to increase your site. So we're currently in the process of updating ours and expanding our awareness throughout the community through that. So also just getting out and about and getting around to factories, commercial places. I'm finding that networking and that communication starting to resurface itself again. I don't think it ever went away. We just got so involved in technology, but that's still going and connecting with business owners, going to networking groups and stuff like that really is powerful as well. That can almost give you enough work if you get around and get out to enough people to put on another vehicle if you did it consistently for 3 months.
Is that like, are you talking about those BNI sort of things?
BNIs for sure. BNI groups. Or
you hear mixed reports about them, don't you?
You do, yeah. It just depends on what group you're in and how long the group's been going for. New startup groups can be a little bit more challenging because there's new members and new growth, and there's other groups that are doing it really well. But there might be already, a company already in there specifically already doing the electrical for residential, and then you can jump in and do commercial if that's what you do. So, and then you've got to obviously turn up to each meeting and have the breakfasts and connect. So it just depends. You might not get a group that works for you. You could change to a different group. There's nothing wrong with going to another group. You've got to fit in with the people that are there and make sure there's a fit for all. If you're getting with obviously other businesses and you're doing work for other businesses, you obviously can meet other businesses that go to them and pick up work via them as word of mouth and referrals. And that's one thing that we want to improve in ourselves is the referrals based marketing as well. I think that's very powerful. I think it's just as powerful as any online marketing. And
for sure.
One we're not capitalizing on enough, so we're looking to implement that as well. So all those little strategies you've got to bring together, and I do think that relationship building one is very powerful.
It's funny, I know the power of networking events can be insane. Like, not even, I suppose, necessarily with even attending events and like educational seminars and things like that. I mean, I've been to so many over the years, and to be honest with you, like if I look back on it, I can't remember in any instance any of the content that I got from any of the workshops that was like, revolutionary to me. But some of the people and the relationships that I made at those events have led to massive successes and gateways to paths and things within the business that I never would have got if I hadn't have showed up to them.
Absolutely spot on. And throughout 2 to 3 years now, that's exactly what's happened. It's been through relationships with people, and I can't remember what some of the workshops had either, but definitely the connections you get through it, and expanding your networks through that. It's worth every cent even if there's an outlay to go to these networking events or these workshops. What you get back is tenfold.
I know one of the guys who recently came on the surf and learn trip to the Maldives. He's a welder, like a fabricator, steel fabricator. And there was another guy, another steel fabricator there, Damien. He'll definitely be listening to this too. He'll be laughing in his car. But he's on the Central Coast, and Jay's down here in Sydney, and he's referred Jay about 20 odd grand's worth of work in the space of the last 3 weeks. So the power of networking is pretty powerful.
It's brilliant. Relationships.
You got to show up.
Relationships, absolutely powerful for sure. That's awesome. That's a good one. That one.
Well, Peter, mate, I want to thank you for your time. We're pretty much coming to an end here, so good on you, mate. I'm looking forward to hearing how everything progresses, and I'm looking forward to seeing you hit the 7-figure benchmark.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on here today, and we'll keep in touch and let you know how we're traveling.
Absolutely. And the one thing I do like asking guests when I have them on the show is who they'd like to see on the show next. You got anyone in mind?
Oh, Adrian's been on a few times, so I probably can't ask him.
Can't have him on. Can't have him on again.
Maybe. What about Dane Beasley, Gold Coast Plumbing Company?
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you know him?
Yep, for sure.
All right. Well, I'll get you to intro me.
Yep, for sure. Yeah, he'll be a good one as well. We've sort of grown similar stage at the same time, actually. We similar sized businesses and similar sized growth. So he'll be able to share his challenges and successes, or challenges and wins that he's had over the last few years as well.
All right, unreal. All right, mate. Well, I think that pretty much wraps this up. So if the listeners want to get hold of you, is there any way they can?
Oh, for sure. You can definitely get us on Facebook, Enersol Electrical Services, or definitely send us an email if you've got any questions. For sure, you can get me at peter@enersolelectrical.com.au.
And your Instagram handle is at Enersol Electrical,
Instagram
which is
for sure. Yes, forgot about that one.
ENERSOLE Electrical, ENERSOL Electrical.com. Sorry. Anyway, you know what I'm saying.
Enersol Electrical, cool. That's the one.
I'll post that in the show notes anyway. So
awesome, legend, Matt.
All right, good work. Well, thank you very much for your time.
Thanks,
and for the listeners out there, if that's you sitting in the car going, I want to know how I can grow, well, there you go. You just heard it. So there's a few, my key takeaways from that conversation there with Peter were, first of all, just don't be afraid to talk about where you're at. Would you say that's right, Pete?
Absolutely. Yep, for sure. Yeah, if there's always challenges. It's always a little bit lonely. Get in contact with people, talk to them about it, open up about what's going on. If you've got some challenges, share, because a lot of us trade business owners, I love to share with other tradies and a lot of mates that are starting up businesses, because it actually helps me as well. But there's nothing better than helping get the industry to get better and better.
The other thing I've got written down here is don't be afraid to embrace technology, because it will save and make you a lot of money.
100%. Yep. Get on any Xero platform, accounting, job management software, email marketing, whatever you can, get on and just speak to some people who are using them as well. So definitely technology.
And the last thing I had here was if you don't be afraid to outsource or get people to help you with things you're not trained in.
For sure. Yep. Yeah, that'll be the top three for sure. Yep. Outsource your marketing if you can. Definitely look at AdWords, like SEO. Get some people on design for flyers, etc. Yeah, get the experts to do what they're good at.
Oh, there you go. And ironically, we can help with all that stuff.
Absolutely. And that wasn't meant to happen.
Plug. Checks in the mail. All right. Well, thank you very much for the listeners out there. That is a wrap. Thank you for listening to another episode of Toolbox Talks. If you're liking what you hear, then you can head across to the siteshed.com, where you can join our community by signing up to our Toolbox Talks. You'll get sent a weekly notification, which is basically a highlight of everything that we've spoken about during that week, along with any other industry news that may be relevant or specific to the trades. If you're enjoying the show, you can head across to iTunes, Stitcher, or SoundCloud, where you can leave us a review. That would be fantastic, and all the reviews get read out in the show. Likewise, if you have any friends or colleagues that you think would benefit from this show and the episodes that we create, then please go ahead and share it with them.